What are we responding to? What music video?
So it's called Will. It's actually the remix. There was a first video that came out a month ago. And I don't know if you guys heard that one yet. We could probably okay.
So we're
I
responding
listened to both of them. I've listened to both of them and also watched that video that you posted about, how it happened and all of that.
Right.
So I'm just setting it up. So we're responding to Will by Joyner Lucas and Will Smith. And this is the remix, right? So Joyner Lucas, he released a version of this song about a month ago and it caught the attention of Will Smith. And Will blessed the song with his verse. Here we go.
Yeah. All right.
Joyner Lucas and Will Smith. Will.
Feeling like Will, I feel like a prince, I'm feeling myself. I'm loaded with bills, cause I wasn't blessed with no Uncle Phil. Don't know how it feels, I wanted to flex, they told me to chill. I'm making a flip, my life is a flick, now load up the film.
Yeah, you feeling like me? I feel like a prince that turned to a king. Found me a queen, started a family and got me a team. On top of my dreams, Joyner, I know you inspired by me, like I was inspired by Nelson Mandela. I give him a rose for every endeavor, a shout out to Julius Erving, one of the legends I worship. Muhammad Ali put to work and he was the champ, the greatest, he earned it. I love that you think that I'm perfect, but I had plenty mistakes and burdens. My grandmama thought I was worth it, she always guided me when I was searching. I wouldn't be me if it wasn't for her. I wouldn't be Willie, I couldn't be me if there wasn't no Eddie. I wouldn't be Will if I wasn't from Philly. Ain't nothing much that you really can tell me. Willie been cold since Benny and Jerry. Must have forgot that I really get busy. They done forgot who invented Get Jiggy. Hey, back before there was streaming sales, way before all the iTunes and the fans had to get CDs still. 60 million records sold, I was on fire, I ain't even need a grill. Did it all with no cuss words, I ain't had to curse just to keep it real. Me and Jazz in the late 80s, writing rhymes, make tapes daily. Fresh Prince make the babes crazy. Rest in peace to James Avery. Even when the streets call me corny, I still ain't never let the hate break me. I just wanted to respect first, I still ain't never letting fame change me. New me, but I'm old school. Big Willie on the Pro Tools. Still fresh and I'm so smooth. I still got on my old shoes. I give Jada 1,000 kisses, ain't nothing changed since '02. Martin Lawrence get a rose too. He a legend and a goat too. Man, I love how you break the rules. Pushing limits and you make it cool. Joyner Lucas wasn't made to lose. You a legend and a make it too. What a beauty, my life's a movie. I swear I'm only on take two. All my kids turned out great, and I know your son gonna be great too. Brick by brick, building a wall that no one could break. Flip by flip, glad I could help so you could be straight. And life's a trip, but who can relate? The legends are gone, but it ain't too late to give them a rose and carry the grace, cause not every hero is wearing a cape.
I'm feeling like Will, I feel like a prince, I'm feeling myself. I'm loaded with bills, cause I wasn't blessed with no Uncle Phil. Don't know how it feels, I wanted to flex, they told me to chill. I'm making a flip, my life is a flick.
All right, so everybody back? Okay. So yeah, well, my first reaction to it is that Will Smith. Something about Will Smith is just so Philly, is just when the Getting Jiggy with It part came on, that just reminded me of our high school years. Carl and I went to high school together. So, and that came out in 1997? So fall 97? 97, yeah, right? Yeah.
It was either 96 or 97. That song stuck around for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember it.
Yeah. And it came out the summer after Men in Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. That was great. That was good. It was nice. But yeah, Darius.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's funny for me because just from what I remember about Will Smith, like the very first memory I have of him is the Men in Black video and jumping on the couch in the basement. And I had to be like probably 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
And so that's really where I know him from, there and Independence Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not as familiar. I mean, I am because I'm a hip hop head, but Getting Jiggy with It and him with Jazzy Jeff and all that, that was before me. I don't remember that part of his career. I remember, movie star Will Smith. So I think it's kind of cool that somebody's pretty much doing a kind of tribute to him right now.
While he's still alive.
Yeah.
And while he's still performing, he's still acting. He's not dead. He's not sick. He hasn't been Me Too. So I think that's pretty relevant. That's pretty cool.
Right.
So my earliest thoughts were from his Parents Just Don't Understand video. And then, of course, in Philly, every summer they play Summertime. That's like a tradition. Like that brings summer. You know it's summer when you hear that song. If you don't hear that song, you know it's not summertime yet.
He used to play. It reminds me of Fairmount Park. It's just like a normal Saturday afternoon in Philly. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Does anybody outside of Philly have that relation to the song? Summertime?
I gotta be honest, I'm not huge on Will Smith. I respect what he's done for the genre. I like his style. And of course I grew up on, I saw Parents Don't Understand when I was like in elementary school, all of that. But to me, it wasn't, even at the time that he was going on, like, even though I can sit there and talk about like getting jiggy with it and say that was everywhere, it wasn't necessarily like one of my favorite tracks. It doesn't super resonate with me other than the nostalgia factor and the fact that he is good at what he does. Like he's really good at what he does. What he does doesn't necessarily always appeal to me, and I don't think that anybody should ever feel that like that's what they should be doing, like when I criticize something. But yeah, I don't have like a strong pull to his music, whereas like some of his acting career, I really did feel like he has excelled. But like some of his movies, like, you're like, wow, no, he is like a really good actor. Whereas his rap career, I've never had like a mind-blowing Will Smith moment.
I don't think he would be as. I don't think he's that type of. I was about to say I don't feel like he would think that his stuff is mind-blowing compared to like Tupac or Biggie, Tribe Called Quest.
Well, I would say he still has some like songs that stand out as like theme songs, like the song "Going to Miami." Like I can tell you, every time I think about Miami, like his song is the first song that comes to my mind.
Will's like that older Gen X cousin, I think. Not older brother, but older Gen X cousin.
Well, and that's what I was trying to. Do I need to say the shoe thing again?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So in the little cartoon image, you've got Joyner Lucas wearing Jordan 1s and Will Smith wearing Jordan 4s. And I kind of find that amusing and kind of interesting because it shows how old school Will Smith is. Because the people I know who wear like Jordan 4s are all older people. All the younger kids seem to want the Jordan 1s. And the Jordan 1s, I feel like, are more popular now than they ever were. Because, like, all of the old school sneakerheads that I've read and stuff like that, they talk about, well, the Jordan 1 was just like a less featured Air Force One in their mind. They really liked the 2. Some of them were really big on the 3s and the 4s. And Will Smith is obviously a fan of the 4s, but I find that interesting that by wearing, you're kind of marking yourself as younger, and I think that's interesting. Because like the 1 kind of got bigger, and I think it kind of eclipsed in popularity now. From Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, with the Miles Morales character having those black and red 1s.
Gosh, I didn't even
Yeah.
I didn't even notice what the animated character was wearing on his feet. Wow.
Oh, dude, it's terrible. Like, don't give yourself this curse.
Okay. Well, see, you're the reason why I can't do. I want to do a period piece set in the mid '90s, so bad, but I'm so freaked out that somebody's going to be looking at the shoes the whole entire time.
I'm going to tell you, I would be for
Yes.
sure.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
But I'm also definitely willing to, like, if you send me stuff saying, hey, these are the shoes I'm thinking about using.
Yeah.
I definitely like review it and say, yeah, these will fly or these won't.
You'll have to be a consultant. Remember, I'm still on indie level. I'm on indie level, so I won't. If I do this one particular film, I won't have a production designer that's going to be watching every single detail like that.
With Will Smith, it was 88 or 89 when they had boycotted the Grammys.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, like everybody keep in mind that this is when NWA and Public Enemy and all those guys are coming around. And then you got Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff, next door, I guess, as being sort of the more mainstream popular one, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say definitely if I was born and around that year, I definitely would have been, if I was a teenager, more in that camp.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he's an icon.
Joyner Lucas was born in 1988.
Right.
Yeah, Lucas was born in 1988. And so that's kind of significant. He's born basically on the rise of Will Smith. And see, I didn't listen to rap music like during the early 90s. Like, believe it or not, Carl was like my he helped me get into the whole scene.
Yeah, I actually had the cassette tape from Will Smith when he put out his albums. I actually owned the cassette, back when we had cassette tapes.
Yeah,
so.
I remember that. And that was the music that was allowed in the household. And even then, I was still pushing it because Will Smith, remember, I grew up in a more Christian household. So Will Smith still cursed every now and then. So
he said hell and damn.
If you can say that curse word. Well, see, going on that, he made a big emphasis on the fact that he didn't curse in his records, and that's what drew, Eminem to put him on blast.
Right.
I definitely remember that line from Eminem.
Yeah.
Like as it pops in my head every time I hear Will Smith, and I'm like what I find interesting, because he mentions it in this song as well, is he's not necessarily saying why he doesn't swear, and that I find, because there's two arguments for it, and one I find strong and one I find weak. The one I find strong is that it's a crutch for lyricism, because swear words can practically mean anything, and it can just kind of become like a beat word, like almost like a bop, bop-a-loo, bop-a-bop, sham-boo. but just, for edgier people, it doesn't mean that much, but you can use it to fill in syllables and stuff in your bars, and then are you really as good as somebody who doesn't? And I think that that's a really compelling and interesting argument you can make. But if you're just doing it because you don't think a grandma can handle it and you want grandma to see your record, I'm sorry, but your grandma has cursed plenty. She just doesn't do it around you.
And I'm wondering, when you say grandma, I'm wondering if it's his grandmother who had a big impact in his life. Because, he mentions his grandmother, he mentions the fact that he doesn't curse, and his grandmother's role in this film.
And that's true, and Will Smith strikes me as having that very, very strong family kind of connection. His family bonds are very strong. Mm-hmm. I get that every time he, comes out.
Dr. J, another Philly icon, also had a clean image that I recall.
Yeah.
So,
is that a Philly thing? Having
a clean image? Well, it's funny because if you think about it, it's not a Philly thing, but it feels like it's one way or the other because when I think of Philly, I do think of clean cut Boys and Men. I think of clean cut Will Smith. But then there's like, so it's either the clean cut thing and then there's like the raw, earthy thing that's also Philly.
It's no middle ground.
There's no middle ground.
One way or the other. So you're either like a Meek Mill or State Property where you just hardcore gangster, or if you're not gangster, then you're just on the clean side. You're the city of brotherly love.
Right.
Let's represent harmony.
And Eve even does that, plays that line. Eve.
Yeah.
Like, when she first came out, she was, talking about, polls and stuff like that. And she played that like, around the way thing. And then when she started to branch into acting, I feel like she switched gears and cleaned it up. Yeah. And next she's with like Gwen Stefani.
Because you can imagine her transition from being with Rough Riders, with DMX and Locks and, hardcore rappers, and then when she got her own TV show and everything else, it's just like a whole different side of it.
Right. So I don't know what that has to do with Philly, the one way or the other. I mean, we are extreme.
Well, I was gonna say, first off, like when my associations with Philly outside of, the artists that come out of it is like throwing batteries at people. It's the sporting events that just kind of take it too far. And so I don't really feel like I have a good sense of what real Philly is like.
By the way, I just want you to know that you have two people from Philly. This whole conversation is supposed to be about like Will Smith and Generations. But when you bring people in Philly into the mix, we're going to make it about Philly. Like,
well, you know what? That's
about Philly.
I put it like this. That's the one thing that I always give credit to Will for, because he never forgets that he talks about Philly all the time. He represents Philly. And even though he's like, Hollywood and everything else like that, he still represents the city. You think about Will Smith, you can't
I don't even know where
think
he
about
lives.
Philly.
I mean, where does he live? In Beverly Hills? Where? I know he's from Overbrook. That's all. But I don't know where he lives.
I mean, hey, look, he brings that whenever he makes a film, Overbrook Productions. That's his production company. It's named after, a section of Philly.
Right. But yeah, and Joyner, I like Lucas. He's good. Have you looked into his backstory? Because I was busy trying to familiarize myself with the lyrics that I didn't even look into backstory. I know he did this one song, which became a big hit on YouTube at least. I'm Not a Racist, right? That's him?
Yeah, I'm Not a Racist. That's where I first heard him. And that's what, actually, I think that's where he really, broke into it, when he made the song I'm Not a Racist. And then just seeing him progress from there when he did his song with Eminem. Once he did a song with Eminem, I was like, okay, now I know that this guy is going to get big, and Eminem has him on the track.
Right. And
yeah, I remember the I'm Not a Racist song, and I remember distinctly not liking it. But that was about it. As far as his technical skill, he's not a bad rapper. I just didn't enjoy I'm Not a Racist.
Do you think it was too conversational?
No, I felt like it wasn't a lot of times when we talk about racism, we let people get away with not understanding what systemic racism is and not understanding the history. And I felt that track suffered from it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel like the messaging.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. And then it was like the equivalent of a Fresh Prince episode.
Right.
It was a very special episode. It addressed racism. And then by the end of it, hugs. Yeah.
Right. Right. I think actually the specific episode was the time that Carlton got pulled over by the police.
Right.
Got arrested and he didn't understand.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that episode.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing a pattern here. Okay.
Yeah, and not to like the thing is I don't want to minimize anybody's perspective on the issue, but I feel like when we're not talking about, well, the police patrol routes are the same police patrol routes now as they were in the 1960s, because they were, you know, they're now based on crime statistics, but before they were based on, you know, racial prejudice overtly, and that means that the initial draw on the statistics is flawed. Like when you don't bring that into the mix, I feel like something gets lost in the actual argument. It's, you know, it's the fair and balanced. Which side? It's not which side is most right. It's now which side is most popular, or, you know, who you get to like.
So do you feel that NWA had a better argument?
NWA, they were it's about the same. Like, I feel like in both, like, I feel like when we start talking about, like, let's say the racist cops as opposed to the racist system, we're making the same wrong argument in the other direction. Like, certainly there are cops who are racist, but when you look at the problem, it's a system problem.
You're a system problem? Yeah, I cut you off.
Yeah, it's a system problem. It's like the real danger and the real threat of systemic racism is you can have a person who is completely not racist, but they do a racist thing because the system itself has internalized racial problems.
Another possible
I can
critic, while you're lagging. Another possible thing with the song is that I guess it takes a right and wrong issue and just makes it more tomatoes. You know, it's like, you know, we're just speaking different language here. You know, let's hug it out. As opposed to, no, you're wrong. So I guess that's a good point, or another point. So Lucas has been around for a long time, and I feel like he's still not really well known. What do you think's holding him back, Darius?
I mean, I wouldn't say that he's not very well known, because, I mean, every time he comes up, because he also did a collaboration, we said he did one with Eminem.
I feel like he's well known in the industry, but how is he like on the street level?
I'm not really sure on the street level. I mean, he's definitely seen as somebody who is leveraging the internet in a very business savvy way. I'm not sure if you guys caught the end of the video, but he has his little, I guess, service that he, you know, streams his music on. And generally, like, people know him for having, I guess, those collaborations. Like, he'll reach out to people and they'll actually respond back to him. And of course, now that this has happened, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, it's just going to get easier for him to do that. And he'll probably become pretty popular. Some people were saying that he should go into like doing promotions for certain people, because we didn't watch his first video here, but the first one was basically like a reel of all Will Smith's main movies. And a lot of people,
Well,
I thought
that video was better than the. I thought the video was better than the song. Honestly,
the video was great.
That video is awesome.
Yeah.
Did he do Muhammad Ali? Did he do Ali? I don't recall Ali.
No, he did skip over Muhammad
Which is,
Ali there.
which is kind of, Will Smith. I think that's kind of a sore spot. Will Smith went hard on Ali.
Yeah.
I think he was really going for the Oscar
Yeah.
for that one.
Yeah,
Ali Boombaye.
Yeah.
I've got a particular soft spot for boxing movies.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Philly,
think that,
Rocky. Let's bring it back.
Oh, Philly. Bring it back to Philly.
I've got a soft spot for boxing movies, and I thought Ali might be like his best movie, like
Yeah, I
hands
agree.
down. So definitely skipping Ali is a
Yeah. But of course, it came back in the remix, and they at least gave the
He brought it back.
iconic image there.
Yeah, Will caught it. Will caught that miss, and he put it back in. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up was how, of course, towards the end of the song, he starts, pulling out like his kids and Joyner Lucas's kids and all of that. And I was wondering, since we were talking about him, Will Smith being more as like, he's the guy who sold 60 million, is what he said in the verse. As I guess like we talk a lot about, I guess, do you guys see him as being where the mainstream of his generation is,
Will
even
Smith?
now? Because
Yes, because
it was.
I do, because we like to, we did like have several Gen X videos, and Gen X is usually associated with like, the hardcore stuff and the alternative stuff. But, there's a whole side of Gen X that they just need to like own up to. Like they need to own up to the boy band, not Britney Spears, but the goodness sakes, the Tiffany's and the they're so pop. They're very
New Kids
pop.
on the Block.
New Kids on a block, yes. Vanilla Ice. Most of that early, like that 1990 pop stuff, that was Gen X. Come on now.
And actually, I would say that they are more indicative that's more indicative of them than like the people who did all the hardcore stuff and who did all of the like really deep down gangster rap and even the consciousness rap, like even that like heavy duty consciousness rap. Those people were outliers.
They were.
They were the weird people with an odd itch to scratch.
Right.
The mainstream just wanted dance tracks.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that, but that is
you got from MC Hammer.
MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, MC Hammer, Puff Daddy, exactly. I would even throw in like Mace.
Jay-Z, even Jay-Z at a certain point.
Yeah, early in his career, yeah, definitely.
And you know what? Gen X is also responsible for Maroon 5. Let's put that out there. So,
oh, that's almost mean, but true.
Yeah. Like a shadow here.
Yeah, I mean, Gen X, but I also think that Will Smith doesn't just represent the mainstream. He represents what the mainstream wished it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's the best of the best at that.
Right.
Not just from a pop production standpoint, but also from a social standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've met a lot of people who have Will Smith's kind of sense of morality and decency, but he seems to carry it the best.
Right. Mm-hmm. Trying to get this shot right because it just got dark all of a sudden.
Yeah, the sun is definitely even changing on my end.
I just forgot my thought because I started focusing on the sunshine, which, by the way, brings me back to Jay-Z, Sunshine. Remember that? It's the period of Jay-Z that talk about much.
You be my sunshine.
Yeah, he doesn't talk about that era much. And everybody, they were all getting jiggy with it around like 1997, 98, 99, 2000.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is those like kind of dance tracks really definitely appealed to they appealed to Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you mention hardcore because when you talk to punk fans or heavy metal fans, like so kind of like both sides that hardcore straddles, they have a tendency to write it off as dance music.
Right.
Because it's in 4/4 time, it's got a breakdown, it's intended to be dance music, it's just dance music for people who like punching each other.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, like the guys who were writing songs in 6/8 and who were making all these awkward chord progressions and stuff like that, they aren't the norm.
Yeah.
And those of us who appreciate that kind of music aren't the norm. And on the hip hop side of things, guys like RZA, that's not the norm.
No, it's not the norm. And you remind me of, you mentioned hardcore, and that reminded me of Lil' Kim's first album. That was hardcore, right? And she was trying to be all edgy. But then by that second album, she was getting jiggy with it, with Mary J. Blige, Missy Elliott, with colorful black backgrounds and looking like Marilyn Monroe. Their natural fallback is color and happiness.
Like Busta Rhymes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say Busta Rhymes. And I love Busta Rhymes. But yeah, he had a part in that whole jiggy with it era of history.
Yeah.
Did you see what I think it was LP was talking about the new Run the Jewels video for Ooh La La, and they were like, oh my God, we've got all these people around each other, and it was like filmed 2 weeks before the quarantine orders.
Right. That's a great episode. Like, seriously, are we going to ever return back to the norm as far as music videos concerned? A whole bunch of people on top of each other at the pool and beach. Thong Song. Can you imagine if Thong Song came out right now? Goodness.
I do also kind of want to go.
Everybody be at Miami Beach.
Right.
We're
totally like going into like nostalgia 90s
music videos.
Yeah. You want to bring it back on topic?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I have much else to say with that. I mean,
I'm going to use all of this, by the way.
That's fine. I mean, Joyner, he shouted Will Smith out. Will Smith shouted out, his people. And I guess
that part was weird.
Yeah.
Sorry,
How was that?
YouTube is. I'm trying to play the remix. There we go. Yes, I remember this.
Okay, but yeah, that part where he shouts out Nelson Mandela, I felt was kind of odd.
Yeah, did it feel like kind of like a quick tone shift from where he was? And it's like, oh, hey, it's Nelson Mandela.
Wait, who shouted? Was it Will Smith?
Will Smith, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like this could have his verse could have been something that he wrote like back in the 90s, because that's around the time that everybody was giving a shout out to Mandela. Do you remember that? That was like around 1991, 92. So.
Yeah, and well, the reason.
It kind of feels.
Go ahead,
Carl.
I was going to say it kind of feels just like, okay, Will Smith is to Joyner Lucas that Nelson Mandela is to Will Smith. And it's just like, okay, so it's basically like saying, okay, on regards of how Will Smith feels about Nelson Mandela, is basically saying that Will Smith is on that same level to Joyner Lucas.
Yeah, well, I mean, Joyner put him up on that pedestal. That Will Smith did not put himself there.
Yeah, but that's still a really weird grab. Like I feel like they're industry related, at least. I don't think that as prolific a career as Will Smith has had, he will never do nearly as much as Nelson Mandela did.
He says, "You feeling like me?" Whoa, that's Will Smith's first line. I mean, I think he's just as shocked. So in a way, he's doing that Gen X thing where he's also schooling the millennial on historical icons, like true icons.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Darius?
Yeah, I know. Let's see, I'm just scrolling through the lyrics here and seeing if anything else caught my eye there.
Yeah, I mean, all of his, it's just so funny. I like Julius Erving. I haven't seen that name written down on paper since the 90s. Since Nelson Mandela was something that was always thrown out. I feel like this is leftover. So,
Yeah.
Well, but I do gotta say that going back to the kids line, Lucas brought that up, and I thought that kind of, even though Will Smith can be a little corny at times, that line was like, you can be corny and be honest.
Right.
You know, and I felt like, you know, that was kind of an older guy trying to, you know, really motivate a younger guy. And it's hard to do that without any cheese at all. And so I can't really fault, you know, Will Smith. Like his verse there, like, I'm like, yeah, it's good. Like, yeah, this is what two grown men who are, you know, dealing with parenthood issues from a mentor-student perspective, this is what they did.
you know, you bring up a good point. Like, let's just to go. I'm gonna find this shot, by the way. This shot, it's just super hot. So anyway,
I'm sorry, but that's the best looking one that you framed.
Right here?
It is.
Right here?
yeah, right there.
So,
even though it's super hot, I'm sorry.
So let's talk about this. Here's another thing that's significant about the video. We have two black guys basically expressing admiration and love for each other, and you don't usually get that. Is that a modern thing? Is that a reaction to?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I sent you the reaction that the video of the guy and his daughter who do the reactions to the songs, and his first instinct was like, you know, why is he being so, I guess, affectionate towards this guy? And then by the end, where like Phil said, it's the narrative of the song was kind of like, hey, I was a prince, now I'm a king. You were a prince, now you're going to be a king. Just kind of like Phil said, encouragement to him.
Right, and I think that's awesome.
He said, just keep going.
Yeah, right.
And speaking of Phil, I mean, you know, he put in a reference to Uncle Phil.
Right.
And everybody knows about that the video that, you know, went around with him and Uncle Phil, the whole, you know, I need a dad, you know, teary-eyed shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's on brand for Will Smith right now. Like he's come back ever since I think he did that M. Night Shyamalan film. He's reworked his image to be more of a mentor. You know, he's like, you know what? You're gonna make me an uncle or the older cousin? Fine, I'm that guy.
Right. Well, he's actually coming
that
out.
role.
Yeah, with like it's like a biography on him coming out soon, and I know the guy who's ghostwriting for it. He was talking about how just how Will Smith in a room full of like superstars, he's pretty much the guy who everybody pays attention to. He's got that charisma that you see in a lot of just world leaders, really. That's how he described it. And that's how a lot of other famous actors I know describe him too. So, I mean, overall, I think it's just, it's the mentor role. I'm just curious to know if that mentor role, like, could you see that happening with like a boomer and an Xer, or a silent and a boomer?
Yes, on a silent. I could see that happening with a silent, and I think we did get that from. Was Dr. J a silent?
I'm trying to think.
Okay, well, we'll skip over him.
Yeah,
Let's just.
I think he might. I think he might be a boomer.
Well, let's go to the other black guy that was on NBC in the 80s and the 90s, Bill Cosby.
Okay.
So we did get that from that generation, I feel. But boomer, I mean, it definitely existed, but not. I can't think in the mainstream. I don't want to take it away from. There had to have been some out there.
No, there were. Let me see. Neil, because that was actually something I was looking up, and not necessarily for a hardcore mentor perspective, but like I was like, okay, I can see, like, is this something that recessive generations do?
Right.
Like, you know, is this pass the torch thing? Because millennials didn't get a lot of this, like millennial musicians.
Right.
You know, they just didn't really get it, but Gen X got it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You had Neil Young cut a record with Pearl Jam in 1995. And Neil Young took everybody, Pearl Jam, except Eddie Vedder, and they went out and they went on tour.
Mm-hmm.
Jello Biafra did the sort of the same thing with members of Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam. But at the time that it happened, because that was like 1999, it was almost more perceived as like taking the old guy out. And so those are two baby boomers that were where that was a thing that was done. I was trying to look for a few more, but those were the two biggies that stood out. But you did see a lot of that kind of mentorship. I also almost feel like Usher's early relationship with
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, with Justin Bieber was like that. It was a mentorship relationship. But I feel like
and he's definitely in that role now. If he Usher's latest music video, or one of his latest music video, he's basically surrounded by a bunch of teenage and 20-year-old dancers who are moving better than he is.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah, the other person who comes to mind is Kendrick Lamar when he came out with Good Kid, Mad City, Snoop Dogg, and Dre, and all of them were up on stage, and they made a big, I guess, so almost like a ceremony of it at one of his concerts.
So you brought up Kendrick Lamar. That reminds me of, oh, goodness sakes. What's... J. Cole. He did a song on one of his last albums. J. Cole did it was the last track, and he did a song about today's music.
Yeah.
And then he followed it up. It was and then he followed it up with like an interview. He interviewed the artist that he spoke against. It's the one with the colorful hair. Come on now, you have the Gen Z kids, teenagers, right? Who was that? Who's this? Hold up, he was born in '99. Hold up, where?
Don't make me say it. Hold on, I know.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
How colorful? There's a lot of kids with colorful hair.
J. Cole.
I was gonna say like that's.
Yeah, I mean that could be anyone from Lil Pump to.
Was it Lil Pump?
Lil Yachty, 6ix9ine. I don't know.
Was it Lil Pump?
Yeah, 6ix9ine is the other person I can think of.
It was Lil Pump.
Okay.
So J. Cole, on one of J. Cole's most recent albums, he had a song 1985. And basically the main takeaway from that song was a criticism of today's trap scene, specifically Lil Pump. And, people were pressing Lil Pump to react to it. And instead of, starting this big beef, J. Cole and Lil Pump did an interview with each other. where it's basically finding common ground and was almost like a mentorship and trying to understand each other. Basically, J. Cole went into like big cousin, grown man, uncle role. I'll link that. I'll link the video in the comments. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that now from especially like as they cross over into their 30s. I see a lot of the older millennials doing that.
it seems like we're ready to maybe that's justification using Strauss and Howe. Maybe that's justification for 80s babies being nomads, because I do see our cohorts being a little bit okay with like relieving power faster. We're not trying to stay on the scene that long. We don't have to, and which in a way kind of makes us look more iconic.
Well, but that's also, I think, with us, it's a matter of, if you look at the civic generations, one of the things they're known for is retiring early.
Oh, gotcha. I see. Flip the switch. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
like it's like the civic generations, like they don't want to stay forever.
Mhm.
They want to be like, and I definitely feel this way, and I don't know, like if my grandparents felt this way, but my feeling is like, my job and my position in society and the time that I have been alive, like it's robbed me of what I wanted to do with my life. And I'm fine to a certain degree with that being front loaded, but I expect to see it on the back end, like I expect to get those years back. I expect to be able to ride off into the sunset and do my own thing, and so I think that's kind of part of it too, is it's like, I'm going to get in, I'm going to make my money, I'm going to get out.
Unless you go on tour and then you're in Las Vegas or you're touring and performing the same song,
Right.
Yeah. Or like,
yeah.
Like, because part of my pandemic habits that have changed is like I've started picking up my bass again, which I hadn't done since my kids were born, but I'm like, the youngest one's 5 now. I'm like, this time around, I want to like I played before, but I wasn't very, very good at it. And I'm like, nah, I want to get good. I got something in my mind that I want to do. And so even though I'm still working full time, I'm still doing all of this stuff, I'm making sure to take time out to do what I want to do. Because what I want to do is I never wanted to go on tour, but I have always wanted to write music, and so, and it's that kind of thing I think that we're more prone to.
Right. The one thing I was thinking where you were talking before is the other thing with hip hop. I mean, because it really started in like the 70s, even if you stretch back to like the Last Poets, where it wasn't really hip hop, but kind of was. I mean, we're only 50 years into it. So I think the thing is, before it was like, what torch is there to pass? There's basically one generation.
Yeah.
And then, of course, which is, I guess, the Xers and then the Boomers, who kind of had it towards the back end of, I guess, their 20s, maybe.
This will be definitely a good subject for when we interview more Gen Z. But I do feel there was a bigger shift between as Gen Zers got more into the scene. Like there's a couple of videos with like old head Gen Xers complaining about the Gen Zers today. For the most part, millennials played by the same playbook of X. Like that's why you like, especially in certain regions, you really can't tell the difference between a millennial born in the 80s and 90s from just somebody a Gen Xer. But I feel like with Gen Z and their like colorful hair and all that stuff like that, that's the first time we're like, okay, you don't approve of our music? Fine, we don't need you. We don't need your approval. We don't even care about Biggie and Tupac. And then the whole hip hop community goes, oh, you know what I mean? That's the first time I'm starting to see young kids give the middle finger to the icons, which now makes, the people we grew up with old. So we're starting to see that shift now, maybe.
Well, and I agree with that, and I kind of think that what's interesting is that Gen Z was the first ones to really incorporate sounds from outside of the culture.
Right.
You had like this weird thing in the late 2000s where a lot of the white millennial rappers were transplants. They didn't start off in hip hop. They started doing something else, and then they sort of came in.
Right.
And they did their kind of their own thing. But even then they were, with the millennials, it was like, okay, well, there's a culture here, and I'm going to abide by their norms and their standards. Whereas Gen Z sort of inherited it, and I think the attitude was like, I can do whatever I want with this because I was born into it. It is mine by birthright, and it doesn't matter what these older guys wanted. I'm taking this in a new direction.